Hi there! Today I've got a quick little video to show you how to change the thread on an overlocker. So it's not completely necessary to take off all the threads and start from scratch every time you want to change colour. So I'm going to show you this quick method and that makes it super easy. But just before I do that, I wanted to talk about threads for a second, because I personally like to change the colour thread for every garment that I'm making, especially if I'm making a jersey garment where I'm using the overlocker to actually sew it together. So often we use these large cones of thread which are designed for the overlocker, and they are great, but I don't think it's very practical to have these in every colour, because A, they would take up a lot of storage space, and B, they are quite expensive to buy because obviously they're very large cones of thread. So I quite like to use these 1,000-metre cones, and I found this this brand Coats Moon thread to be quite a nice quality. So I tend to use those, which are much more practical to have in lots of different colours and a bit less expensive. So all we need is a pair of scissors and our tweezers. So what we're going to do to start with is cut all the threads close to the reel, so allow a good bit of thread to be hanging down, because we're going to tie these to the new threads. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the threads. And now I'm going to remove all those 4 threads and place the new ones onto the bobbin pins. There we go. Now what we need to do is tie each of these threads together. So I'm going to try and show you that, because it's so we've got the 2 threads together, and then I'm just going to wrap them around my finger and pull that through to knot the 2 together. So I'm going to do that on each one, and then I'll show you what happens next. So those are all now tied on. So what I'm going to do now is just open up the front cover. I'm going to check that the needles are up so that I can see the eyes of the needles, and I'm going to lift the foot. So the next thing I'm going to do is just bring the needle threads, which are just above the needles, and pull them so that I can cut the thread. And I'm going to cut them so that the needles become unthreaded when I pull this chain. So I'm going to start pulling that chain now, and you'll find that that moves quite easily now the needles are unthreaded. So some people like to do this by moving the tension dials right to 0 so that the threads run through nice and smoothly and easily, because you don't want to risk them breaking, otherwise you will have to go back to starting from scratch and threading it all up. But I tend to find it's usually okay. If you do come across a bit of tension, you can move the dials, but you know, if you've got them set at a certain setting that you're using, you probably want to either write that down or try and memorise it. So once I've got that, got those unthreaded, I'm ready to pull this through. So I'm going to carry on and pull. These are the lower loopers on the right hand side, so I'm going to pull those, and I can see the knots coming through there, and they're moving through quite freely. So I'm going to carry on and let that one come through. That one's got a bit of tension on it. There we go. So both those have gone to the new colour thread. So I'm going to cut off the old thread, and then we're just left with the needle threads. So I'm going to pull those through. And again, those 2 have come through to the new colour. So I'm going to cut the knots off And now all that's left to do is to thread up the needles. So I'm going to shut this again. I'm going to put the foot down. Actually, I'm not going to shut that, I'm going to leave that open for a second. And then I'm going to thread the needle. So if these have got slightly tangled, you can just pull while the foot's up, just pull that to check which thread is coming down. So the left needle will go to the left thread. So I'm going to thread that one through. This is where you need your tweezers. And then the right needle, again, just pop that through with the tweezers. And there you go, completely rethreaded. So just push those under your foot and put your foot down again. That'll close it all up. And then just run a little bit of stitching to check that it's all fine. Now you can see the chain coming through. So completely threaded with a new colour in a few seconds really. So it just is a nice simple method. So I hope you enjoyed that little video, and if you'd like to see more videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.